Our boys, under the leadership of General MacArthur and Admiral Nimitz, are delivering blow after blow to the Japanese Empire. From the blood-soaked beaches of Iwo Jima to the strategic stronghold of Okinawa, the relentless advance of our troops is paving way for our inevitable victory.
Gotcha! Come on! Here they come! Private, where's your weapon? Gentlemen, welcome back to the agency. Your mission, if you choose to accept it, is to stop a bonsai charge with nothing more than your 45. Today I'm talking about the Tisas, I'm gonna call it the Tisas 1911a1 clone. Now this is a gun I heard a lot about, and I wanted a 1911 for my old LARPs. Pretty much satisfies anything from like 1911 to the 80s or 90s as far as a companion piece of kit. So I said, you know, 300 bucks on PSA's website, I might as well give it a shot. So I bought it and said, you know, let's make a little video about it. Not gonna be a full review. This is more just gonna be a like, hey, look what I bought and this is what I think about it. So we'll talk about the history first of the 1911. Not an expert on the subject. However, I did a little Googling and I said, you know, let's put a little something together for the viewers, and we're gonna present that now. To the untrained eye, you might not notice a lot of differences between the original 1911 and the 1911a1. There are some pretty different changes made to the gun that are pretty noticeable once you know what you're looking for. So 2 years after World War I ended in 1920, the 1911 started to undergo some design changes. These changes were designed to make the gun a little more ergonomic to the shooter, make the shooter a little more accurate, and just make it a little bit of a more comfortable gun to use for shooters of all sizes. After 6 years, the 1911a1 was adopted, and the following changes is what they came up with. The grips. The original ones were walnut and they had diamonds, you know, double diamonds on near the top screw and the bottom screw. That was changed in 1924. They were still made of walnut, but they removed those diamonds just because it was, you know, for manufacturing reasons and whatnot. They wouldn't start to play around with different materials till about 1931. And then in 1941, they ended up using the Coltwood plastic grips that you'd see on a lot of the World War II 1911s. These ones are Tisas reproductions. They're not as dark as the original Colt and they're not as grippy. So I've considered just buying some old GI ones, throwing them on there. I think it would make the gun look a little bit better. So the trigger is another significant change that you'll be able to spot with your eye immediately. The original 1911 trigger was a little bit longer than this one, and the A1 is a little bit shorter. The A1 is also textured. The shortening of it and the texturing was thought that maybe, you know, guys with micro fingers, I guess, would be able to get their finger around it a little bit easier. The frame also saw some cuts as well that made it a little bit easier to get your finger to that trigger. So the cuts are on both sides of the frame, so you know it's ambidextrous and whatnot, so you're able to get your finger. So it's just a small ergonomic change, but you know, with all these kind of ergonomic changes combined, it kind of compounds. Another change you'll be able to see with your eye is the mainspring housing. On the 1911, this is just flat. On the A1, they added this hump. The hump was kind of thought to give you a better purchase on the gun, not make the shooter tend to point the gun down. That hump was kind of added, again, as a small ergonomic change Lieutenant William Wenstrom, I think is actually his name, was quoted with calling this a more desirable angle to the rear of the grip and forced the soldier take the correct grip with the hand well up on the stock, right? This was also called the stock of the gun. And that change was done in 1922. So another significant change and improvement to the 1911A1 over the original was the hammer spur and the grip safety spur. So something would happen where this hammer would come back because the spur on the grip safety wasn't long enough, and it would kind of give what's called hammer bite to the shooter. Initially, the hammer spur was deemed too short enough already, so they didn't want to make changes to it. However, they ended up making it just a little bit shorter, as well as extending that grip safety spur as well. These two things combined made it so that you're not getting that, that hammer bite anymore. You can get a pretty high purchase on the gun and it's not gonna bite you. These sights also did see a few changes. Now the sights on this gun are not very good at all. It's like a point shooting gun and there's way better sights you can get today. At first, they had widened the front sight to a more uniform width to try and make it a little bit easier to pick up. They changed the rear sight a little bit, and then eventually they ended up adding a ramped front sight that was a little bit easier for your eyes to pick up. Now this does not have that. This is just a normal, just humped front sight, and it's really not great at all. But you don't get a 1911A1 because you want cool sights on it. You get it because it's 1911A1. You want to live through the your fathers, I don't know, your grandfathers. So why did I purchase this gun? Well, like I said, I heard a lot of good things about it, and I wanted something to go with my older kit. So I said, for 300 bucks on PSA's website, it was like $370 after everything was said and done, transfer fees, taxes, and all that. I said, why not? So the gun comes with these two 7-round Mech Gar magazines. So I had a few malfunctions with it on camera, and I attribute that to the magazines. I don't have any Colts or different kinds of mags to try out, but I should get some and then try it out. This gun only has about 200 rounds through it, right? So like I said, not a review. This is more of just a, hey, check out what I bought. It still could be a break-in period, right? So the gun is actually Cerakoted. Tisas makes a new one that has a Parkerized finish. And then there's like some little autistic details, like people don't like how the cut is on the ejection port. They think it's too low, or it would have been a little bit higher. An actual A1. Those things I don't really care about, I'll be honest. I just wanted I want to get into the 1911 game for cheap. And Tisas is making these. I don't really like modern 1911s. I think, not talking about 2011, I'm talking about like a 45 ACP 1911 with good usable sights unlike these, and like a rail. There's nothing there to draw me to get a gun like that. If I'm gonna get a 1911, right, it's either gonna be something like this, a real one, a real collectible one, or like an M45. There's just nothing, I'm just not really a 1911 guy like that. Now this is the first 1911 that I've owned. Didn't know about the Tisas until maybe a few months ago. I always liked the old style, the look of the old Colts, and being able to get a pretty faithful reproduction on the cheap was a big draw to me. Now, if you really care about some of those, you're a reenactor or you are a cloner, some of the markings you might not like, the placement of them, but to me, like I said, I really don't care. This is just a gun to shoot and like, hey, look at my World War II looking 1911. As far as the trigger goes and everything, pretty decent trigger. Now, again, I'm not a big 1911 shooter. This is not the first one I've shot. I have shot others. Pretty straightforward. That's kind of the take-up that you're seeing. And then pretty crisp all the way through. As far as the grip safety goes, for those that don't know, the 1911, you can go like this all day and it won't fire unless the grip safety is engaged. There's also a safety on the left side of the gun as well. When you're carrying the gun, it's recommended that, from what I've seen online, it's recommended that you carry one in the chamber, obviously unless you're Israeli, and then the grip safety on, and then you can just pull that thing out, flick that safety off, and start shooting the... From what I've read online, now of course, don't have a lot of experience carrying a 1911, so those of you that do, sound off in the comments, but you wouldn't want to carry this gun like one in the chamber, right? Safety off, and then that hammer forward, because the firing pin, I guess, would be resting on that round. So if you could bump it, and that wouldn't not be an ideal situation. So 1911s are pretty safe to carry. So a few different things need to go wrong, like 4 different things need to go wrong for a 1911 to go off on itself. They are pretty good guns to carry from what I understand. I wouldn't carry this particular one. There are guys that do carry 1911s. I don't know why, but they do that. And it is pretty safe to carry just because a lot of things need to go wrong. So not only does the safety here on the frame need to fail, right? The hammer needs to fail in 2 spots. So not only does it need to fail when it's cocked back, but the half cock also needs to fail. And then the grip safety needs to fail as well for a gun that is chambered and on safe to go off on itself, right? Like, of course, like I said, with that hammer forward resting on the round is not recommended, but carrying it in this configuration would be safe because that gun is not going to go off. Even with the grip safety depressed, still not going to go off. The safety here on the side is, let's say that's off, still can't go off because the grip safety, and then of course once you engage it, then the gun will go off. So a lot of different stuff. I've heard stories of guys, I don't know how true they are, I think it was the Mossad guy or Mossab, whatever his name is, you don't need a grip, a light on your gun, or what is it? He goes, meow. That guy, I think I was listening to something he was saying that criminals would get 1911s in their hands. This could be FUD lore. I'm probably spewing some FUD lore here. But he had said that police reported criminals would get their hands on a police carried 1911 and not know how to shoot it because of all that stuff. They didn't know to disengage the safety on the side or the grip safety, stuff like that. So the gun wants to go off when you tell it to go off. So for that reason, it's pretty safe. I will demonstrate actually the grip safety now. So with my finger depressing the trigger, we'll slowly ease in on the grip safety and see how much. So try it again. All the way in, and so it gives in pretty easily. I think it's measured in percentages, but it's not a lot. You don't need a terribly good grip to be able to squeeze that trigger, get a round off. Now if you just very lightly, let's just do it real lightly. So it's like, all right, real light, right there. Oh, it's still pretty good. It's pretty forgiving on the on this one. Now the fitment between the barrel and the slide is pretty tight. From what I understand, you can kind of put your finger and move this and see how much it moves. If there's a lot of play, you may not have an accurate pistol, but this is pretty tight, as well as the bushing is pretty good inside the slide as well. So fairly decent little build of a gun. The parts are forged from what I understand. Now the individual little pieces I'm not sure about, but when I purchased this gun, it had a tag on it that said forged 1911a1, Tisas, whatever. So that's pretty much been my little overview on the Tisas 1911a1. Pretty cool little gun. Should you buy it? If you're into the kind of, I don't want to say the history of it because it's not technically a historic piece, but this kind of like in the spirit of, it's a reproduction. So you're able to, I really like the reproduction stuff just because you can kind of beat it up and shoot it, not worry about destroying an original like that one guy. Yeah, it's just a cool little thing to bring to the range and whatnot and have for your old kids. You know, it goes with your M1 Garand or your Gordy clone. It's a pretty good little companion piece. So that's pretty much all I got, gentlemen. So thank you for watching the video, and without further ado, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, feel free to like and subscribe. I have links in the description below if you want to show your support. I have various ways you can show your support, and I do have a podcast now that's going to be starting, so if you're interested in listening to that, it's going to be called the Agency Debrief Podcast, and I'll link that down below as well. You can go check it out. We talk games, we talk guns. It's with my co-host, Mitch. I think it's going to be a good time, so if you're interested in that, go check that out. And I hope you guys have a good rest of your day.